together African leaders with distinguished records in governance and leadership at the highest level, sharing their experiences on personal leadership, overcoming challenges, and the invaluable lessons they have learned along the way with the next generation of women leaders. Now, this is an amazing opportunity to access such a remarkable group of women and also to interact with your peers from all over the world. So please feel free to use the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen and make sure you're chatting with and engaging with your colleagues and sharing your thoughts, and please ask any questions you may have, as we will be looking at them at the end of the program. Now, we are blessed to have over 600 participants representing over 20 countries, such as Canada, Nigeria, Netherlands, Namibia, Mali, France, Kenya, Tanzania, the UK, the US, South Africa, Qatar, Cameroon, Ghana, UAE, Togo, Italy, Namibia, and Spain. So this is truly a global event. Now, I'd like to say a special thank you to our sponsors for this event, Emerging Africa and Women in Finance Nigeria, for making this event possible for us this evening. Now, tonight, we're extremely honored to have some of the very most powerful women on our panel. And I want to take this opportunity in the program to acknowledge who they are. Her Excellency Engineer, Mrs. Noimot Salako Oyedele, Deputy Governor of Ogun State, Nigeria. Chief Dr. Mrs. Onyekapo Akande, OON, CON, the Group Chairman of Emerging Africa Capital Group. Good evening, Madam. Chief Barrister Mrs. Eniola Fadeyomi, MFR, Chairman, APR, PLC, and Chair Board of Governors at the Institute of Directors. Ms. Owen Omojiefo, President, Group CEO of Transcorp Nigeria. Haja Hadiza Ali Danga Bana, General Manager, Legal and Regulatory Commission Secretary, National Identity Management Commission.
Good evening.
And our most gracious event host, Mrs. Toyin F. Sani, Group CEO of Emerging Africa Capital Group. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Now, to begin the proceedings with a keynote address, I would like to welcome Her Excellency, Mrs. Noimot Salako Oyedele, Deputy Governor of Ogun State. She started her career at the United Kingdom, where she served as a graduate engineer and project manager at OV AOP and Partners between 1989 and 1995. Engineer Noimot also served as Managing Director, NOS Nigeria Limited, between 1995 and 2014. She became the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer between 2014 and 2015 at Glenwood Property Development Company Limited, where she served as General Manager of Business and Development. She became Acting Manager Director, Grenadines Homes Limited in 2015, a position which she held till she ventured into partisan politics and emerged the Ogun State Deputy Governor. You are most welcome, Madame, this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you very much for that introduction. I'd like to adopt the existing protocols and say good evening to everyone, but I'd like to especially mention Chief Mrs. Nike Akonde, who is an icon of our time. It's always an honor to share the same platform with you. And thank you for all that you have done for us as women. You've given us very big boots in which we're walking, and we thank you very much for that. I'd also like to thank the convener of this webinar, Mrs. Toyin F. Sani, the Group CEO for Emerging Africa Capital, for this wonderful initiative. I was on her first webinar just over a month ago, I think, and that was really very fulfilling and engaging. When she invited me on today, I was too happy to say, yes, I'm going to come on and talk. So thank you very much for having me. I bring you very warm greetings from the government and good people of the Gateway State, Ogun State. And I'm particularly honored to actually greet you as the Deputy Governor of Ogun State and a woman in governance. Our state is a blessed state. It's the education capital of Nigeria. We have the largest number of tertiary institutions and probably the largest number of secondary institutions. And we're also the industrial capital of Nigeria. So whatever happens in our state is very significant in the impact it will have on human capacity development in this country. Today, the way I want to approach this keynote is to look at it and say, we want to achieve 50% women representation in governance. Nigeria is 60. It would have been fantastic to have reached that at age 60, but we have to take this opportunity to reassess the situation and know how can we go forward and achieve 50% in the shortest possible time. We should have been there already, and quite frankly, I shouldn't be in a unique position of being one in only 4 deputy governors in Nigeria. Being a female deputy governor should be a norm, but be that as it may, we are where we are, but we have to look forward and see how we can move forward from where we are. I'm grateful for the wise and trailblazing women from this state who have made significant impact on governance. For students of history, they will know of Chief Mrs. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, who was an educationist. She was an advocate, an activist. You could call her a suffragist. She was a political campaigner. And in the late 40s, when there was a tax levied on women here in Egba land, she coordinated women's union groups. And after a long fight with the colonial administrators and also the traditional rulers, these taxes were overturned. So we know from history that if women get together, they can make things happen, and they understand women's issues and are able to articulate them in the best possible occasion. And what we are now celebrating right around the world, the International Day of the Girl Child, these ideas were not new to her, and she was very passionate about them. There are 2 questions I would like to ask. Why should we have women in governance? And why do we need to get more women elected? And how do we get them elected? The Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, political process, societies thrive and prosper. And that really is the summary of it. All governments, their agenda, whatever it is they have to do, is to improve the lives of citizens. And if women are involved, they will do it better and they will do it faster. With increased participation of women in public life, we will achieve stronger and vibrant democracies as well. We'll have greater responsiveness to citizens' needs. We'll have increased cooperation along party lines and ethnic lines. So the issues that usually create crises, women are really averse to crisis and are usually able to sort these things out much faster. We'll have advancement in gender equality, and we'll also have government policies that emphasize the quality of life and reflect the priority of families, because invariably most of the women in office will have their own family set up and be able to understand how to achieve this. The challenge, however, is that across the world, women representation is still very low. Recently, I think in 2016, there was a study by McKinsey which showed that only 5% of CEOs and 22% of cabinet members, 24% of elected officials in Africa were female. And the one for Nigeria was even much lower than those average numbers across Africa. In the last election, last year, 2019, we had about 3,000 women, candidates across all the parties and across all the different offices, but only 64 got elected. That's an abysmal 7.6%. That is really, really low. And this is where the problem is, and we have to address, and how can we get these numbers up? There are a lot of barriers to women participation in politics and in the election process. One of them is, of course, your political network. It's said that your network is your net worth, and that is the same in business as it is in politics. And you have godfatherism is a very big part of politics. And for women who are not able to build that network and have those godfathers, then it becomes an issue. And we have to make sure that it now not becomes godfather, but it becomes godmother, so that we can have women pulling women up and helping them. We also are in a country where people vote across party lines most of the time, and it's not necessarily about the candidate. So if you cannot get adopted as a candidate in one of the major parties, then you are unlikely to get elected, no matter how visionary or how passionate you are. Another challenge is the challenge of raising funds. Elections are very expensive. And again, going back to your network is your net worth. Men raise private funds much, much faster than women, and they're able to access more money, and therefore they're able to get better chances at getting elected than women. And finally, another issue is stereotyping, religious stereotyping, traditional stereotyping. A lot of people still think women should be seen and not heard, a woman's place is in the home. And when women go to work, for interviews or for selection, you get asked, how are you going to manage your family? What if your husband says you shouldn't come? Very unlikely that anybody asks a man when he goes for these interviews, what's going to happen to your children, or what's going to happen if your wife says you shouldn't do it. But you would get more often than not, women are expected to have the permission of their husband, and the selectors and the interviewers want this on record and see it as a limiting factor to getting female candidates. So these are the kind of issues that limit women participation in political office and making them good candidates for parties. However, if we know that we want to push forward and go up to 50%, then we 64 people who have already been elected must see ourselves as a springboard for other women. We must position ourselves strategically so that we can increase the number of women in office and the influence that the women wield when they do get those political positions. We must leverage technology and social media. So even if we don't have cash to be able to go around and move around, we can do these things using other means. And we have seen, in the recent past, the effect that social media can have. So these are things that we have to learn to tap into, and then build our communities of women leaders, women activists who will help us and support us and promote us as we go on to get other people involved in the political process. And we can only achieve progress by increasing these numbers here from 64 at 7.6%. Today now we have the dates for 2023 election have been announced. So everybody knows that, yes, there's another election around the corner, and we have to start to work towards getting more women as candidates of the major parties with a very good chance of getting elected. So today's webinar is really very timely, as it can now look at this kind of issues. The 64 that we're saying, is the number is quite low, but nevertheless, it has also brought to the fore that women are very interested and women want to take part. I remember attending a debate during our own campaign, and on the debate, I think there were about 3 or 4 women who were representing various parties who were running to be governor of Ogun State. I, as deputy governor, was on that campaign debate to represent my governor because he had to be at another place. And therefore, it shows that women can play at this table, and we must continue to push and push and push. So worldwide, there are some countries that have high female representation. So we wonder, how did they get there, and what can we learn from them to be able to increase our own participation here in Nigeria? Of the top 10 countries that have the highest number of women in elected positions in their parliaments specifically, about 6 of them have affirmative action policies. And the truth is, without affirmative action, we're unlikely to get these numbers. We need affirmative action to support us, to push women to the front. And then once they get there, people can then see them do the work and know that, yes, these women are competent, they're able to do it. And then the dynamic goes on from there. So we have, I believe in Sweden, South Africa, Nicaragua, and Iceland, they have a voluntary political party quota system. So the parties themselves are encouraged to field female candidates. In Senegal, it's legislation that they have, and Rwanda, which we always use as an example here on the continent, it uses a reserve seats system. From my own personal experience, I think what is most important is that if you can get your foot in the door, then you really have to kick the door wide open. Once I've had this opportunity, I know it comes with a lot of responsibility for me to do my best in this position, to show that a woman can do it, a woman can do it well, and we can now get more and more people having confidence that yes, there's nothing wrong in having a woman deputy governor. In fact, it is an asset and a benefit to your ticket to make sure you have a woman deputy governor, and for some other people to even decide that they want to have a female governorship candidates. When I contested for this position, there were 6 people who put their hat in the ring who wanted to be deputy governor. There were 4 men and 2 women. But at the end of it, I was able to persuade the party leaders at that meeting that I would add value to the ticket, because the first thing as a candidate is the party wants to win. And that is the most important thing. They'll need the numbers, whether it's parliamentary or the governorship level or at the presidential level. The party wants to win. So whoever you're putting forward must be seen to be a winning candidate. Can this person win on this ticket? So that is very important. We have to be able to articulate ourselves and make sure that we can get the message across. Whatever our skills are, whether it is being able to talk, whether it is being able to mobilize for funds, whatever it is that our skills are, we have to show that we can win. After that, then you now can now say help the party to run for what's effective in the position in which I have been elected to. So these are very important. And that is why I, for one, do not believe in tokenism. I don't think just put a woman there. I think we have to put women who can do it and women who can sell us. We don't want to undersell ourselves. So it's very important that we make sure that we get the right kind of people who are capable into these positions and be able to do well. If we go in for tokenism, we're going to sell ourselves short, like I said. And at the end of the day, what will happen is that the men will come around and the men will tell you that, oh, we've put a woman there, see, she couldn't do it, so don't let's bother, don't let's do that again. So we must make sure that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. In Ogun State here, as a female deputy governor, His Excellency is very, very committed to women development and supports women at all levels. He has appointed 2 heads of service since we came into office. Both of them are women. We have women commissioners. We have about 16 women special assistants, special advisors, senior special assistants. And interestingly, out of those 16, 12 of them are aged under 40. So not only do we have women, we have the women of tomorrow, women who still have a long career ahead of them. So they may be special assistants now or senior special assistants, but they have a long career ahead of them. And I can see them being there and getting right all the way to the top because they've gotten very early and they've been given an opportunity to show themselves. And I can assure you from where I'm saying they're doing really, really well. I'm really proud of them, what they're doing, and I'm giving them the utmost support at any time to make sure that whatever the issues that come about, my door is always open to them so that they can come to me, whatever it is that we need, whether it's a private matter, whether it's in the political office, whatever it is, it is my responsibility to support them and make sure that they can do well so that the legacy that I leave when I leave this office is that I've helped a few more women along the way. I'm almost running out of time, so I just want to round up by saying that as an engineer, I've been used to being just one of few women in the room. In public service, I still find myself as one of few women in the room, but you can always look to me to continue to support women in everything that they do. I am always looking out for women political appointments, and my fellow people here in Ogun State will tell you, my colleagues also will tell you that she's always saying, there's no woman there. Can we have a woman? Can we have a woman? And that's my role there. And I must make sure that we do that. So as we mark the 60th anniversary, congratulate all of us that the country has come so far. Despite naysayers and all the challenges, we're very happy that our country is one, it's united, and we look forward to many, many more years and development as we go on the journey of this country. So thank you very much for having me on, and I look forward to the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency Noimot Salako Edele. I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal, some of the initiatives that you've spoken to us for and just what you stand for. It's an absolute honor to have you tonight, and we really appreciate your presence here. Now, to give the opening remarks for this program, please welcome our series chair, Chief Dr. Mrs. Onyekapo Akande, the group chairman of Emerging Africa Capital Group. Chief Dr. Mrs. Nike Akande, OOCON, is a renowned industrialist and investment expert. A former president described her as a role model and an inspiration. She has had a distinguished career in Nigeria's business landscape, and her CV can be best described as intimidating. She has participated for both overseas and in Nigeria. Chief Dr. Mrs. Nike Akande, OON, attended the University of North London in 1965 to 1968, where she studied accountancy. She did her postgraduate program at the prestigious Harvard Business School in Boston. She also attended a management development course at Oxford University, an advanced management course at the International Institute for Management and Development in Switzerland, and at INSEE Business School at Abu Dhabi. She was the first Nigerian woman to be appointed as Minister of Industry, a position which she has served twice. Chief Mrs. Akande has also served as President, Lagos Chamber of Commerce, and currently the chairman of NEPAD Business Group, Nigeria. It is an absolute honor to have you with us this evening, and we look forward to hearing from you. You are most welcome.
Thank you very much, Peace. It's a pleasure to listen to you again. The other time we had a webinar together,
yes.
And I recognize you.
It's very lovely to see you again.
It's nice to see you again. Good evening, everyone. Your Excellency, Engineer Mrs. Modinot Salako Oyedele, Deputy Governor of Ogun State. Madam, since I first met you, I have watched you and followed your progress. You are doing extremely well in Ogun State. And please tell the governor that Ogun State is gender sensitive. And we are all watching all the wonderful things that you are doing in Ogun State. Well done, madam. The chief host, Mrs. Toyin Soni, our dynamic, vibrant, hardworking woman, tireless woman. Even I'm supposed to be having a holiday in London, but she wouldn't let me have a holiday anyway. I love you. I'm proud of you. Well done. Chief Mrs. Eniola Fadayomi, MFR, Fellow Institute of Directors, Chairman of Africa Prudent PLC. He was a two-time commissioner. They call me two-time minister. She is two-time commissioner, and she's my great friend, my legal advisor. Madam, it's a pleasure to listen to you today. Mrs. Owen Omogiafo, President, Group CEO, Transnational Corporation of Nigeria, PLC. We haven't met one-to-one. I've heard about you. I'm anxious to listen to you today because I like the young people. The young shall grow. That is my motto. I like to encourage young people and young women. Hajia Adiza Ali Dagabana, GM, Legal and Regulatory Services, National Identity Management Commission. Madam, I know your face. It's nice to see you again. We have met. Thank you, madam.
You have tutored me, ma.
Thank you. That's why I said I know your face, and I'm so proud of you. I'm anxious to listen to you again. You know, I'm surrounded by all these vibrant, very brilliant women, and I like them. And I will always support women. Thank you. The moderator, I mentioned you earlier. You always do a good job. Very distinguished. Thank you. Very distinguished guests, distinguished participants. I hope the men are among us. You know, I always like to particularly appreciate women, men who support women. You know, not many men have the courage to attend to programs that women do. But with us at Imagine Africa, when we do things, we get the men involved as well because we need them. We cannot do things without them. So the men, I recognize you and thank you for your support. It is my pleasure to be part of the important conversation with the theme, the role of women in governance and nation building. Let me convey my appreciation to the management and staff of Imagine Africa Capacity Building and Women in Finance for this wonderful opportunity. I participated actively in the first Women Who Lead virtual webinar, which was held last month. And I'm very delighted to note the success of the program, especially the positive impact it has had on the younger women, because I got a lot of feedback from the younger women. They were so happy. I am happy that the organizers, Imagine Africa, is organizing another one. And I hope that this will also help a lot of people, a lot of younger women, to see the way we want to mentor them. This is very commendable, Imagine Africa. I'm pleased with the array of quality resource persons that will be deliberating on the theme of this webinar. Gender issues are central to the economic development of any nation. Mr. Kamoon, the former Secretary General of the United Nations, was quoted as saying, "When we empower women, we empower communities and nations and the entire human community." Women continues to be underrepresented in government. For instance, in October 2019, the global participation rate of women in national level participation was 24.5% from about 8% in 2013. It is noteworthy that women have lately been occupying top positions in government, domestically, continually, and globally. And they have brought enormous value to both corporate and political governance. You've just listened to the Deputy Governor of Ogun State, and she shared her experience with you. But clearly, there is still a great room for improvement. Like Oliver Twist, we are asking for more. We don't want a situation that is business as usual. Women want to be involved in situations that affect them. I hope somebody is okay there, because I can hear somebody. I hope you're all right. Should I go ahead? But clearly there's room for improvement. Gender inclusion remains an issue that we need to fix in Nigeria and many other countries of the world. While there are clear economic and social advantages to having more women in corporate and political governance level, we still must contend with issues of culture and tradition. Therefore, there is a need for a complete reorientation to reduce discriminatory practices in the society. Here, there is a global aspiration to achieve 50% women representation in public service by 2050, which I consider laudable. The economic and societal benefit of achieving 50% female representation in public service by 2050 was not for women alone, but benefit a nation's society and economy at large. As reports have it, investing in women have a distinct multiplier effect on the society. When a woman is empowered, they are able to provide better lives for their children. They are able to contribute to the national economy, and they are better able to stand beside men to solve the long-standing problems of the time. While numerous cultural and religious barriers still exist that prohibit women from fully contributing to our global society, the emergence of women as leaders does not need to subjugate the cultural and religious identities that so enrich our national landscapes. Men and women need to acknowledge that it is only through joint decision-making and cooperation that we can emerge as a prosperous and a thriving society that consider the well-being of all and not just the few. I wish to conclude by calling on all of us, including our men, to support the Emerging Africa Capacity Building as it continues to pursue its goal of addressing the significant capacity gaps of women, particularly in the areas of leadership and governance. I thank you all for your kind attention, and I'll be ready to share my own personal experience at the question and answer time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Dr. Mrs. Akande. That was brilliant. I can see everyone cheering and clapping in the background. You're actually going to share your thoughts a lot sooner. I'd like to kick off the discussion tonight because we have such great knowledge on this panel to decipher this evening. So I'd like to actually start with yourself, Chief Dr. Mrs. Akande. You were twice appointed Nigeria's Minister of Industry. How did you achieve the visibility to get you nominated into this office twice? And what advice can you give to those aspiring to such great positions?
Thank you very much. This is a very important question. But before I was appointed the Minister of Industry, I had experience. I've been a very active player in the organized private sector. I've attended so many seminars and I joined so many associations, and I was quite active in the Chamber of Commerce, the Manufacturers Association. So when I was appointed Minister of Industry, I knew the ministry from my private sector perspective. So immediately I was appointed, I went into action. People were surprised because I've interacted with the ministry. So I knew where the shoe was pinching people. So I knew what to do. So I was so popular because I did many things I brought out a lot of things that could help people in business. And it was really appreciated. And I made sure that whatever I did was given enough publicity. You see, people underestimate publicity. If you do work and people don't know what you are doing, it's like doing nothing. But I was working and I was letting people know what I was doing, and I was inviting people that we can help you. This is what we do in the ministry. Come to us and we will help you. And we were mentoring people as well. You know, visibility is very important. And I always encourage people to sit up front at seminars and participate. Let people know that you are interested. Don't be put off by people who are not progressive. Just be focused, be hardworking, transparent, and consistent in whatever you're doing. People would know you, we appreciate you for what you are doing. And after I finished my first term, there was another administration, and they were so impressed with what I did, and they reappointed me as Minister of Industry. I thank the government, and I thank a lot of people that supported me. Up till now, I'm always ready to mentor people, to encourage the young one, because we women have to work together to help each other. The men are always helping each other. Why shouldn't the women help each other? They know me for it, that I'm always supporting women, and I will always support women. And my prayer is that one day we'll have a woman president in Nigeria. There are a lot of younger people that are very, very dynamic, brilliant, hardworking. They should be recognized. We are getting old. We will pass on the torch. You know, I went to Queens. Our motto is pass on the torch. I want to pass on the torch to the younger people so that one day I will be proud to have a woman president in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that insight. And I love what you said about passing on the torch and women working together. I think you're always showing that every time I've seen you on one of these panels, you've given such valuable insight from your experience, and supporting such an amazing initiative with your time is exemplary. So thank you so much for that. I actually want to pick up from there because I know that the Deputy Governor, Ms. Noimotsalako Oyedele, you mentioned a lot in your opening about the work and the things that you're doing that are impacting young women. Now, you were actually elected by popular vote to the office of Deputy Governor of Ogun State. What qualities do you think make a female candidate electable?
It's quite interesting what makes people electable as opposed to what makes them effective in office. I'll give you an anecdote. The first day I was presented to the party faithful as the deputy governorship candidate, I went along, I really didn't know what to do. So I stood there and I started singing and dancing, and I just stood there staring at them. And the next thing, I was getting comments that, I don't think this one's any good. She doesn't dance. She's not friendly at all. She's just standing there. I don't think this one would be good for us. You know, this was the kind of feedback I was getting. And in my head, I was thinking, what have my dancing skills got to do with being deputy governor of a state? You know, I'm an engineer. I get things done. You know, so I had to change back very quickly. Because if people wanted somebody who was chatty, who was like them, that could empathize with them, that they felt had a common touch, then I had to do that. I couldn't be seen as being elitist. My Yoruba had to ramp up very quickly. And I had to be able to talk, you know, to crowds of people. And it was amazing trying to, you know, talk like this in Yoruba. I'd speak in English in my head, then I'll translate it before I now start talking to them. So what makes you electable is not necessarily what skills you need to get the job done. And you have to understand the two of them. I think it's very important, especially as a woman, a professional woman, to be able to have a common touch. Majority of the people who are going to vote are not technocrats. They do not speak fluent English. They just want you to look like them. And the closest you can get to looking at them is the social engagement that you have with them. And so that's very, very important.
And you actually went on to say, I love the fact that you mentioned there's two different criteria. It's one thing that gets you actually acknowledged, but then there's something else that actually makes you effective.
Yes.
Now, as who has attained the highest elective office by any Nigerian woman so far, how do you think you can push the envelope for women to go higher in these positions? And as you said, be effective in these positions so that they can continue rising, such as governor, Senate president, speaker of the House, representatives. What are the principles that you need to employ once you've actually been caught on someone's radar? What do you have to employ to rise in the ranks?
I mean, being effective is the same in whatever job you do, in your job, in my job, wherever it is. Know what is expected of you and do it right. Chief Akonde then said something earlier about visibility and publicity. Politics is a game of numbers. So I'm speaking now particularly about politics. What gets you made a CEO in your company is probably your bottom line, and whether you can drive profit. In government is whether you can drive the votes. That is the important thing. And if whatever you do can be seen to get the votes in, then you have a good chance of getting to the next stage. So whatever it is that you do, wherever you are, you have to continue to show people that, yes, you have the right touch for whatever it is. You need to be able to convince the electorate that you're good for them, but also convince the party hierarchy who do the selection of the candidates, because there are two different elections. There is the election at party level when you're an aspirant and you need to become a candidate. So that's a very closed shop, and the electorate there is limited. But if you don't get past those ones, you can never get to face the people. So at each stage, you have to know what it is that you need. I said earlier that when I had my process, the shortlisting process, where there were 6 of us, I had to go there and sell myself to these people. There were about 27 men there. And I had to sell myself to them. And I got there and I said to them, first of all, oh, well done. You've done a great job getting the governorship ticket for His Excellency as he is now. But now you need somebody to support him, somebody to help him out, So that was me just trying to prove to them that, yes, I'm the person that you need to help you to do this. My constituency, I'm a woman, I'm an engineer, I get things done, I'm a Muslim woman, that constituency is waiting to be a part, whatever it is that you have, you sell it, and this is what I could sell. So I did that. And at the end of it, I can tell you that out of about the 27 there, I think I got about 19 votes. And the other 5 people shared the rest, because I got there and I was able to get across. I have a challenge also as a woman where the femininity comes in, because there were some people there who had a doubt. Are you sure she's going to have the stamina for it? There's a lot of late night meetings, blah, blah, blah. Women able to do this. So all these people, immediately they come up with these stumbling blocks. You have to have answers for them and try and make sure that whatever their concerns, you're able to meet them and make sure, because if you don't get nominated as a candidate, you cannot even face the electorate. From the statistics I gave earlier, there were about 3,000 women who were candidates, but they were not in the major parties who usually get elected. So the important thing is to persuade the people in the major parties to make you a candidate.
I like the fact that you actually highlighted, this is such a male-dominated space. And when I was looking into this research, I noticed that they mentioned a lot about women not voting for other women. So past female presidential candidates have actually recorded the lowest votes due to this. How do you think we can mobilize female votes in a decided way to achieve collective goal of greater inclusion?
Like I said earlier, politicians, political parties, they want to win elections. So the important thing, it's not, you cannot go in at the top. I cannot wake up tomorrow and say, I want to be president. I haven't even traversed this country in the first instance. So you have to take these things in steps, right? And once you start now, like I said, we have special assistants, we have SSAs, there'll be members of House of Representatives, senators, there's a process that you have to go through. If you look at people who have been presidents, Nigeria, the current president and the first president that we had in this democracy, they had been presidents before. They'd been head of state before. It's not easy. And people want to win. They have to look at that candidate. Everybody in the party, they'll look at that candidate and say, can this person win us the election? That is what we're all here for. Even me as a woman, I favor women candidates, but I'm also looking for winning candidates. So if I want a woman, it has to be a winning woman candidate. I just don't want to say, okay, we have X number of women if they cannot win. So we have to make sure that there's a process, and you can start now and say, let's start to groom this person so that in 8 years' time, in 12 years' time, that person is strategically placed to be able to go in there as a candidate and do as an aspirant and do well enough for the party to select that person as the candidate, which the party will then support with all its machinery to win right across the country. So you cannot just say that, oh, I want to do it and go there. Do you actually have the wherewithal? Do you have the followership? Do you have the buying of enough people in the party to go there? And that is where we are. Even the women in the party, they want a winning ticket.
I love that. I love that you're mentioning that it's not just about the gender, it's about also being qualified and making sure that you're bringing your full best self, so that you're good enough for it, regardless of what you may come come up against. So thank you very much, Your Excellency, for some amazing insights. That's a lot of takeaways. I'm making so many notes here while you're speaking. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're
now,
welcome.
I'd like to move on to Chief Mrs. Eniola Fadeyomi. Now, she holds the position of Chairman of Africa Prudential PLC. She's also the principal partner at Eniola Fadeyomi & Co., and a member of the Nigerian Bar Association. Fadeyomi holds an LLB Hons from the University of Lagos and was called to the Nigerian Bar in 1972. Her professional experience spans several years in both public and private sector. She was the Attorney General and Commissioner for the Justice of Lagos State. Now, what I really wanted to ask first of all is the ease at your long, illustrious career that you've managed to transition from public and private roles. What do you think are the differences between both sectors in terms of leadership, and how have you been able to successfully thrive in both spaces? Oh, you're on mute. I believe you're on mute. Madam Fadeyomi, on mute. Oh, brilliant. Welcome. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I think you're back on mute, unfortunately. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Brilliant. Yes, we can hear you. Good evening. You're most welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So let me start again by thanking you very much for inviting me here. It is indeed a privilege and honor to be amongst these super women. And I would want to recognize Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Ogun State, and really commend her for such a beautiful and motivating address and input into everything that has been said so far. And our chief host, Mrs. Toyin Sani, indefatigable Mrs. Toyin Sani, energetic, brilliant. Thank you very much for inviting me here. Of course, our big sister, Chief Mrs. Akonde, OON, CON, twice minister, and I can go on and on and on. You know, you would have to tell me to stop if I have to list all the things, all her achievements. But one thing I do want to say is that I hope we get a chance to read what she has said, listen to what she has said again, because everything she has said is absolutely true. Knowing her for as long as I have known her, in a very professional way, our paths have crossed professionally in so many different fields. And knowing her in that extent, I know that everything she has said is indeed very true. Also, Owen Omogiafo, she does, as had been said earlier, is doing a brilliant job. She's been moving rapidly. She's doing a brilliant job. And I'm looking forward for all, on behalf of everybody, to hear what she has to say for the yuppies who are coming on. Please don't, please, and well, I have something to say on that in the course of answering the questions. Also, our GM from Nigerian Institute of, for the Nigerian Institute of Identity, yeah, Nigerian Identity and Management. I had cause to have some relationship there. some time ago, and I know that the role that they are playing in our nation building is very important. Madam, it's my honor and privilege to be on this same panel with you. And I thank the moderator for bringing me in. So I've been asked to differentiate between public and private sector. And the first thing I would want to say is that essentially they are poles apart. In public sector, you're coming in from a political perspective, more or less, at least from the leadership point of view. And in the private sector, as many here would also know, we are coming in from a profit-oriented mindset. At the political level, Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor, has already highlighted some of these issues, which is sensitivity to diversity. For every decision you take, you must be sensitive to issues of diversity in whichever form or shape they take. You must be sensitive to job creation, wealth creation, poverty alleviation issues, industrial harmony. Your decisions must take into consideration the environmental impact it could have, as well as the cultural impact it could have, and cultural issues. And then you are trying to create influence and recognition. Again, a lot has been said about publicity. All the things that you're doing, you must ensure that the publicity is there to carry it off. And now, when we compare it to the private sector, the mindset is one of profit orientation. The bottom line becomes the most critical part of what you're doing. And therefore, to achieve that bottom line, we're looking at motivation. You must be able to motivate your people to work hard, to incentivize them to maybe work longer hours, publicity, to publicize what the company is doing, maintaining good public relations for the company or organization. And of course, as I said, the bottom line, results are perhaps more important than effort. In the private sector, it doesn't matter if you put in a lot of effort, work hard from morning to night. If you do not achieve any results, then it is not appreciated. Let's put it that way. But one thing I feel is very important to highlight at this type of venue is that both public sector and private sector, they're like two different sides of the same coin. And in reality now, the trend is both sides are beginning to merge. Yes. So the factors that I've highlighted in both the political side and the factors that I've emerged in the private side, they're both becoming equally as important. Let me put it this way. We're talking about industrial harmony in the public sector. In the private sector, industrial harmony is very important because you don't want your workers going on strike. Capacity building has become very important in the private sector. And I'm sure Owen will also be saying a lot more about that. The environmental impact is very important. You've all been hearing more and more about CSR. every company now must identify itself with some form of CSR. They are not there just to make profits, and they must make it clear that they are not there just to make profits. They must put something back into the community within which they are serving. So again, in the public sector, you find that even though results are not so important, they are getting more and more important. If you are somewhere, just like the Deputy Governor, Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor said, again, you want to win. Whatever assignment they give you, you must be able to achieve that assignment. You must be able to do it effectively. You must be able to perform effectively, because even after you've won all the votes and you're sitting in that position, I'm sure she will agree with me that the performance is what is going to carry you into the next level. Before you can even become a deputy governor, going through the ranks, just like Chief Mrs. Akonde had also said, you're going through different levels. So your performance becomes very important. And of course, we now hear about PPP, public-private partnership. We're beginning to see, I mean, that is about as merging as you can get. We're beginning to see that if the public and the private sector, if they both work together, use their best leverages, their best skills to work together, the result will become magnified far more than what each side would have done on their own. A project being done by the private sector on their own would go so far. Same thing with the public sector would go so far, but both merging together, using all their resources, it goes more than double. So that is also very important. And then also the area of publicity. Chief Akonde said a lot, Chief Mrs. Akonde, she said a lot about publicity, people knowing the work that you have done. We are not talking of just talking for the sake of talking. We're saying, let your achievements be known. And I think both in the private sector and in the public sector, this is becoming very, very important. You must be understood. You must understand your job. Whether you're in the public sector, whether in the private sector, you cannot get far without understanding your job, or at least ensure that you are effective in what you're doing. So we will see that, yes, there are poles apart, but at the same time, there are two sides, two different sides of the same coin, and those two poles are moving much closer together. So if you are a company in any community within which you are operating, you must make some kind of beneficial impact on your environment. You must ensure that the operations of your company also do not negatively affect your community. Like some manufacturing companies, the waste product could become a big disaster to the community. So invariably, these are areas which the company will ensure that the damage is not extended beyond the company. And then you also have some companies, for instance, they have water, they have excess water after maybe using their own resources to get water, to source water and electricity. They distribute any excess to the community within which they are operating. So you see, some companies are also operating like and serving their community like a local government would do so. And the government, on the other hand, public sector, on the other hand, are also always looking for ways to create wealth, because they now understand, the government is clear that it's not just a matter of civil service, it's wealth creation and capacity building. And I think this is what Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor, is emphasizing in assisting women in either building capacity to make them, building capacity to enable them to be the type of candidate that will be chosen for any particular area. So these are some of the things that I would want to talk about in the differences. And well, the struggle continues. I mean, we are continuing to struggle to do better and better. But one thing I do also know, and Chief Mrs. Akonde stressed it too, that you need to be current in what is happening. If you're going to, 1 minute you are in the public sector, the next minute you are in the private sector, or vice versa. Her Excellency, the Deputy Governor, was in the private sector. She moved very easily into the public sector. She did so by being current, knowledgeable about what is going on. We must all be alert and knowledgeable about what is going on around us. Public affairs, general knowledge. And we must be able to articulate ourselves well, and we must be able to communicate to the public. So in this way, people will know what we are doing, whether we are operating in public sector, whether we are operating in private sector. And as I said, the two are moving closer and work together for success.
Thank you. That's some really eye-opening comments, Chief Mrs. Fadeyomi. I mean, a lot of the things that you said really resonated with me. And interestingly, I notice when I look at our next speaker, she actually aligns with a lot of the traits that you mentioned. So thank you very much for that, for highlighting that and educating us with that knowledge. I would actually like to go to a Miss Owen Omojiafo. Now, the reason why I linked straight onto you is because when you joined recently as the group CEO of Nigeria's leading conglomerate, Transcorp, it was everywhere. It went on every single platform, and it was one of the most high-profile women that we were seeing in the corporate space. And your extensive experience of managing human capital as a HR director and as a CEO, and now as a group CEO of Nigeria's leading conglomerates, there's a lot of knowledge that we're going to ask from you also. But I just want to go into the profile for anyone who's new. Now, Miss Owen Omojiafo is a Nigerian business executive and strategist, an organization and human performance professional. Omojiafo is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Transnational Corporation of Nigeria, PLC, Transcorp, a diversified conglomerate with strategic investments in power, hospitality, and oil and gas sectors. Now, when she was appointed to that role in March 2020, she was the youngest CEO on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and also the youngest first female to occupy that position at Transcorp, which is an extremely huge feat. There were so many women inspired by the opportunity and the fact that you filled it so well. Now, as women who are targeting leadership roles of that capacity in private institutions, I feel that it was quite an intentional development for you to be able to fill that role. What advice would you give to us in how to follow your footsteps and be able to fulfill such a strong position intentionally?
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. It's such an honor to be on a panel like this that is filled with so many role models. Of course, Our dear chief host, Mrs. Toyin Sani, she's a big auntie to me and has been for for a number of years now. So thank you very much. Very glad to be here. And thank you for the kind introduction piece. It's so much has been said about this. I'm just going to try and pinpoint some things, if that's okay. So we just focus on it. For us as women, I always say, as we are moving on to leadership roles or stepping up to areas of responsibility, there is a natural bias that we need to be careful about. A natural bias in our culture where there's a certain role that women are groomed to play, that of being supportive. We are brought up to be very modest. I don't know, that concept of sit down properly, close your legs, cross your legs at the ankle, tuck it into those cute little things that we are brought up to be. You have to be very deliberate. There's one key point that has been raised, and I want to emphasize in terms of your skills as you're getting up in there. And we'll talk first about building and then the leadership. It's good to be visible. Very important. Visibility is key. We talked about hard work in here, even with your hard work and results. But it's also important for your results to be seen. Do not shy away from being assertive. Assertiveness is not arrogance, it's not being rude. You probably will hear people that will say, don't you know you're a woman? And you should smile and say, yes, I know I'm a woman. And that's why I am coming forward with my point. However, in being assertive, we need to be very careful as well. I've had the pleasure of working with different kinds of people, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Sometimes some people they mix up assertiveness with being abrasive. So it's important that we do not overcompensate. You know that thing of I want to be taken seriously at the table, and because of that, you now overcompensate and become abrasive. You need to be approachable. Leadership skills, approachable. Her Excellency said something and I smiled. I don't know if she caught me smiling at the beginning when she talked about when she was introduced. When she was introduced, it is strong emotional intelligence at that point, a very key leadership skill to recognize, oh, they want me to dance, they want me to sing. Whilst I personally do not think that my dancing affects my engineering skills or my ability to get things done, at this point in time, what I need to get done is my connection with the people. And to connect with them, I need to interact on a platform, a language, a simplicity that is understood. I dare say that if Her Excellency had started waltzing instead of proper peremole, she would also not have succeeded. It wasn't enough to dance, but she had to dance the right dance. And these are women, we have that skill if we just tap in within us. We should also build the skills, the competencies of reading figures. Figures. I'm sure we are all familiar. People say, oh, woman's instinct. I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds like I'm an oracleist or something. Let's talk figures. We talk about the bottom line. People will sit up and listen, even your followers, when you are using figures to track what is being done. You're using figures to back up the hypothesis or the statements that you are making. It's very, very critical. People sit up and listen once you go into statistics. So, Peace, you read my profile. I've had to deal with two things in my career. Two things I can't change. Being a woman and being young. I can't change those things. If I like, I jog from now till tomorrow. I'm still going to be the age I was when I woke up. I'm not planning to do any gender change. But there are things that you do that make people step up, that make people sit up and listen. Even in your posture, are you slouching? Do you giggle needlessly? Or when you go into the room and you have to stand and deliver, you do stand and deliver. You're prepared. And we should always remember that we will work extra hard as women. That is the reality. We will work extra hard as women because there's that sense of we are meant to support the person who is leading. So we will work extra hard. You will hear people who are going to try and query what you're doing. So for you to also make that, you need to be knowledgeable. We've talked about current affairs. If you're going into a meeting, be prepared. If you've been appointed to a board, please read your board minutes. In fact, one of my boards, we're looking at, I was quiet. Some of the board members actually went, is Owen on this call? She has not corrected the minutes. And I laughed and I said, I'm here. There's been nothing yet to correct. When we get to the page, I have my correction. I will speak up. And those are the kind of things. So they know that you are prepared. You begin to prepare your brand. Women, we need to develop the skills of negotiation. We are always too quick. Again, because of those social things that are against us. We don't push back. We don't negotiate. I can see TFS nodding because we understand what we're talking about here. We get things and we'll be like, okay, it's fine. It's God's will. It's God's will to get the best that you can get. But to negotiate, you also have to have your facts around you. For our skills, we are natural nurturers. If you tap in properly, you can build within the community, within the people that you're in. I call them your positive cheerleaders. Those that will carry your matter and ring it with it like town crier. Whether you're on the board, whether you're in the company, wherever you find yourself. And those things come when you are able to build sustainable relationships. Very important. Sustainable relationship. Let people know your brand for what it is. They should know that when they come to you, they're going to walk away with value. Very, very critical. As women, we are not men. And that must be very clear. I'm not a man, I'm a woman. I'm very proud to be a woman. And if I'm coming to this world again, God, please make me a woman. And we revel in our femininity and stand firmly on it. Reveling, I love Chief Mrs. Akonde. I love you so much. I've hero worshipped you from when I was like this high. And you don't know me, but trust me, I know you. I've flown with you. I've come to greet you. I've seen you at parties. I've come to give you a drink because I just so hero worship you. You're always so well put together. You always have a kind word. So you see, you don't know me, but I know you. And that's something that we should also be aware of, that we are under the spotlight every single time. You are under the spotlight. And we have a responsibility for just not ourselves, but for our entire gender. And in my case, I have a generational responsibility. I can't fail the young women of my group. So be assertive as a woman, but approachable. Let's not get it confused. Be prepared. Know your figures. Know your figures. Stay current. Stay current. Keep up with the news. Know how to negotiate. Lean in when you're required to. Do not accept token appointments. That's always my fave. Know when somebody is playing you and know how to play yourself out of that as well, politely, because we don't want to burn bridges. That wood might be useful in future. You just don't know it today. Be visible and build your network. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Omogiafo. When you were speaking, I sat up because I was slouching and smiling maybe and laughing a bit too much because it was so interesting. So you spoke directly to me and I felt it, thank you. But I loved what you were saying as well about it being an experience and repeating that experience on every interaction, because that's what really counts. I would like to move on to Haja Hadiza Dagabana. Now you have a very rich and long history of public service. Just to go a bit into your background, you were the developmental liaison officer and later head of anti-corruption and due process in the Bureau of Public Enterprises. You transferred your skills to Transnational Corporation of Nigeria, Transcorp, and was seconded to the Nigerian Telecommunications Company. as secretary and legal advisor. Now you have over 21 years of experience in legal practice and enjoys membership of the Nigerian Bar Association, International Bar Association, and Federation of Women Lawyers. Haja Hadiza Ali Jagavana is the General Manager and Legal Regulatory Accomplice Services Board Secretary of NIMC, as well as the Diaspora Project Manager of the Diaspora NIN enrollment. Now, my main question to you firstly would be, how did you prepare yourself for this career? And how can we get more brilliant, committed professionals like yourself into the public sector? You're on mute. You're on mute as well.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, you're most welcome. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Good evening, and thank you very much for having me on this, madam. When I saw the list of panelists, I was very, very happy because on the list is one of the first person that nurtured me. I didn't prepare myself to be public service. Actually, I was practicing law in Lagos. And by chance, or is it fate, I will call it, I was accidentally called public service by the accidental public servant himself. That's the present governor of Kaduna State, who was then the Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprise. So I found myself there. I'm finding myself there. You know, I was wondering because I didn't have immediate family members that have worked in government before, so it was kind of a new challenge for me. I got there, and the opportunities I found there were overwhelming. I think I was there at the right place at the right time because I joined the organization when the public sector reforms were ongoing, and that was how I came across working with the Chief Mrs. Akonde. He was chairing the industrial sector reform steering committee, and I was heading the secretariat for that committee. So we worked for over 2 years, and I know the kind of impact she had on all of us that worked with her, the mentoring that we had to go through. Even after the committee work, I've had cause to interact with her on personal level. So in short, I didn't prepare myself there to get there, but getting there, I had to prepare myself to be relevant in the public sector. And how did it happen? First of all, like all the speakers have stated, you have to be knowledgeable. You have to be up to date and current. And being current, one major factor I found in public service was that the opportunities were there for capacity development, but most people were going to institutions where there are some perks that they will benefit from. I remember I was a level 14 officer, and actually in BPA, I was the first level 14 officer, not a management staff, that got admitted into HAB. So it was an opportunity for me, and I know when I was applying for school, His Excellency told me, Hadiza, don't follow the crowd. Why don't you set a niche for yourself? Go for something that will boost your career, that will develop your skill. And I applied to the Kennedy School of Government, and I got admitted. I got admitted twice in the college, and it became, some others were going for trainings that they will be given a laptop or they will collect ESTECO. I go for trainings that I don't even collect ESTECO. I just go there, collect the 10% stipends, and but then I know I was getting quality education. So I built myself, and it really, really skyrocketed me up from my peers. So that was how it started. BPE was an exceptional institution in public service that really gave each and every one of us that pass through in our careers. And from there, it was from there that, coincidentally, it was even Toyi that advised me to buy Transcorp shares. When they did the book, I was back from the US then. After going, I was gone for almost 6 months on for a maternity leave. Returning, the shares were going, and she advised me I had to sell some of my jewelries to buy it. I don't know how one of the chief executives got to hear about that. I was in the meeting, and then when he heard my name, he said, "Oh, Hadiza, oh, we need someone with a passion to work with us in Transcorp." And then I had to move to Transcorp for about 2 years or so, and then move back to the public sector. Though, like as a consultant to a UK-based DFID project to come and set up 2 units in the then newly established National Identity Management Board. From there, the story has been wonderful, but I know it did not just happen like that. You must build a niche for yourself. You must build yourself, sell yourself, like Owen has said. And I know one thing that everyone that has worked with me in the public sector knows is that I'm very effective at what I do. I don't give excuses. My personal life does not interfere with my work. That is why I look at young people these days, where there's always excuse. People felt coming in this is to come and relax. It is not a relaxing. If you really want to know your audience and you want to make an impact, it is not a sleeping place. It is as much, sometimes more work than the private sector, because I've been in both. And I know the challenges, the opportunities that are there, but you have to be ready to accept challenges. No excuses. Every challenge is an opportunity to advance yourself, to enlarge your knowledge horizon. Every opportunity. So that's me in public. Hello.
Thank you. That is very true. I mean, I notice there's a similar theme with a lot of the valuable insights, where there is an emphasis on making sure you're known for what you do, and also emphasizing the niche that you fill. And speaking of niche, thank you very much, Haja Dagabana. I'd actually like to follow on to Mrs. Toyin F. Sani. Now, just before we go into my question for you, I'd like to go through your profile, because you really embody really fulfilling a niche. In 2017, Mrs. Sani was declared the All-African Businesswoman of the Year for CNBC Forbes Africa APLA Awards, and the Nigerian CEO of the Year at the Pearl Awards Board. She is an investment banker and an author with over 30 years of experience. Prior to founding Emerging Africa, she was the Group Chief Executive Officer at United Capital PLC. She is a fellow Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, fellow Chartered Institute of Secretaries, and a member of Chartered Institute of Secretaries and Investments in the UK. She holds a first degree in law from the University of Lagos and has attended the CEO program of Lagos Business School, the executive programs of the New York Institute of Finance, the Wharton School, and Harvard Business School. Mrs. Sani is passionate about developing leaders and women, and is the founder of Women in Finance Nigeria and WIFNG UK. She serves as a co-lead and ambassador for the Africa CEO Forum in Nigeria, and is on the board of Women's Working for Change and Transcorp PLC, amongst other boards. Now, in terms of building a niche for yourself, you have done it to an exemplary level. And as Group CEO of Emerging Africa Capital Group, what do you think is the greatest impediment to women getting elected into a public office, and how would you address it, Mrs. Sani?
Okay, thank you so very much, Peace, for that excellent question. I want to also my deputy governor, my mentor and group chairman, Chief Mrs. Nike Akonde, my mentor and lovely auntie, Chief Mrs. Eniola Fadayomi, my dear sisters and friends, Hadiza Ali Dagabana, and also Owen Omogiafo, and of course my own Peaceable Peace for the excellent work that you have all done so far tonight. It's such an honor to have you all here mentoring women. And I have read the comments here, and I'm so grateful to God for the opportunity that I have to be in your midst and to discharge this duty, which I believe is God-given. Now, the question is an amazing question, and I take note of the fact that Her Excellency the Deputy Governor has answered to some extent by telling us some of the greatest impediments that women face in pursuing elective office. So I'm going to zero in on the one that I think I find most relevant to my skills. And I find that my skills in life are raising money and raising people. And that's why we're here. That's what we're doing. That is the second part of it. The first part of it is raising money. And so I think one of the great impediments that women face in achieving elective office is inability to fund their ambitions. I believe that the very low economic empowerment level of our women across Africa has been a major impediment to our political aspirations. And by the way, this challenge is a global challenge, because so far women are still trailing behind men in economic environments, and it shows. So he that pays the piper essentially dictates the tune. So I think if we're going to cross the bridge and get to the targets that Her Excellency, my sister, the Deputy Governor, has mentioned, has given us, which is 50% representation of women in elective office, we're going to need funding for the ambitions of female candidates. And I have started studying some models across the world, and I am convinced that we need a trust fund that will be targeted at funding women for elective office. And I'm going to make that a part of my mission and the mission for women in finance. I was at a recent event at which the idea of a women-owned bank was suggested as the solution. I definitely think we should have women-owned banks. I definitely think we should have women-managed and directed banks. But for those of us with a banking background, you will know that no bank can open its treasury and just begin to fund political aspirations. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't matter if the bank is owned 100% by women and managed by women. You don't run banks that way. But we can definitely set up dedicated funds. And these dedicated funds can work. And I love technology. So I have a brilliant picture in my mind. And I think by the grace of God, with the help of some of the amazing women around the table here, and some other women, and some amazing he for she's. I recognize the men who have joined us today, the men who joined us last month, and the men who are all for this our goal, including my wonderful husband, who supports everything I do, and without whose support I would not be able to do this stuff. I think that we can put in place a very well-structured funding that will be technology enabled, that will enable us to screen and pre-register, recommend. So you find out that in other climes, you actually have this kind of funds that recommend female candidates that they have properly screened and provide a platform by which people can fund them directly or indirectly through the trust. So we're looking forward to something like that. And if I can achieve that, I will feel once again that I have contributed to being a part of the solution to one of our biggest problems.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that insightful answer. Being very aware of time, I'm going to go into some of the questions. So, I mean, thank you for this insightful discussion from this amazing panel of women at the forefront of governance and women who have been intentional leaders in shaping public policy. I'd like you to thank you again to our remarkable speakers. But I would like to take a few questions from our participants. So I'm going to dive straight into that. The first, sure, like all of us, we have witnessed over the past few days, the world pay attention to Nigeria due to the End SARS protests that are rocking Nigeria. Do you think a greater involvement from women in seats of power within the government can definitely improve the sensitivity of leaders to impact policies and actions of the government officials and agents in order to help our youth?
That's for me, right?
Yes, it is for you, Ms. Sun.
Thank you, Peace. And honestly, I believe that part of our problem as a nation, as a continent, is that we have tried to be the bird that flies on one wing. And what you find is every time a bird tries to fly on one wing, it will fall flat on its face simply because it's not balanced. So every time we try to run our nation, our country, our nation, our companies, or any other institutions by utilizing only half or less than half of the capacity that we have, we deny ourselves of certain capabilities. And I believe that women have inbuilt capabilities to be empathetic, to be sensitive, to see things in probably a more balanced way, or sometimes to balance out the views of the men. And by the way, I think men are amazing. And I know that the world would not be complete without them. But I don't think the same way that a man and a man cannot make a baby naturally. I think the same way when you have just men in power, we lose something by way of sensitivity, of empathy, by way of early recognition of signs of trouble. And also there is a strong bond of connectivity because women are nurturers and because we are the ones that raise the youths. Yeah, we would like the men to spend the same time, but you know what I mean? And culturally, we have spent more time with the people. So with the younger generation. So I think that it would have helped to bridge a lot of the disconnect between the younger generation and the older generation, and leadership decisions would have been more balanced if we had more women. So very quickly, we need to improve and increase the level of participation of women in leadership, and it will help to address this. And by the way, when we're talking about exclusion is not just the women that are excluded, the youths are also excluded. So if we have government that is dominated by purely adults, grown, in fact, not adults, because even the younger men are adults, but older men, then we are all losing something. So we're probably flying on half a wing and not even just one wing. So yes, I think greater inclusion of women will make all the difference.
Thank you, Mrs. Sani. My next question is for Ms. Owen Giafo. Now, it's kind of following on us flying with half a wing and talking about the role that men have played in your success. The question is that what role should men play in closing the huge gender inclusion gap we have in Africa? And for you, Mrs. Giafo, what roles have men played in your leadership journey particularly?
Thanks, Space. We need to work on this, your Nigerian pronunciation. Giafo.
I'm like, she's gonna hate me. I'm so sorry.
No, I just couldn't resist. I couldn't resist teasing you out there. I think Toy's first response, she talked about flying on one wing. And as she mentioned it, I just had a flashback to childhood where you find the little chick that broke his wing or something. And whenever I tried to even move, it was just always comical to watch, to be honest, because there was a lot of effort and no result. Men are a part of society. right? God made man and God made woman. That is the reality. Now, I always feel that I sort of have a bit of an advantage because growing up, I was the only female amongst boys. So from a very early stage, I've had to compete with boys from a very early stage. And the role of the man is, they are our supporters. Like Tony, I have a wonderful enabling husband, right? Just like Mr. Sunny is, I hope he's somewhere listening. When I was coming back from the US, Tony and her husband might kill me for this. I flew back on my own and to have my baby, and I had a section. So you can imagine what it was like trying to fly back so quickly. And there I was with Mr. Sunny, and he took over the care of the baby completely. He would tell me to sleep. Like, don't worry, sleep. And he took perfect care of little Abigail. Our men encourage us. So as a woman, I advocate, I love work-life integration, right? I don't believe in, oh, do one thing and one thing alone. If you know that you're interested in a family, have an integrated thing. It's not compulsory. It's not everybody that is interested in it. And it's fine. If all you want to do is just have your career, it's also fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong in it. You should have a man that's going to support you if you decide you want to be a career or you want to go into governance. I'm sure, of course, Her Excellency would tell us about what it was like in coming into politics. There's a movie, oh my, why am I forget? Movie by Omoni, Love is War. We saw that. I don't know if you've not seen it, Omoni Oboli, you should see it. Love is War. It depicts the challenges women face in trying to go into politics. Now, for the men, I have had very strong male support, and I would say it anywhere, starting from my father. My father brought me up, making me believe that, sweetheart, there's nothing you cannot do. Just work hard, pray, and God will bless you. You will stand tall. I'm daddy's girl completely. There's nothing about it. My brothers also went on to reinforce that foundation that my father had put in me of saying, you are worth something. You are worth something. So price yourself high because you are worth something. And giving me that strength of knowing you can do these things. In the workplace, coming into a professional environment, I've had men who have been very, very supportive. I am a beneficiary of having a mentor, a proper Nigerian. I'm sure TFS knows who I'm going to speak about next. Mr. Tony Elumelu. Father Yomi is smiling. Mr. Tony Elumelu has created a lot of opportunities for female. And hey, you can prove it. Go and look at the boards. And it's not even about token appointment so that we can say, oh, we have females. No. In Transcorp Group, I have 5 executive directors on Transcorp Group, myself included. We have four ladies and 1 man in Transcorp Group. I thought Haja would smile because you came into Transcorp before, right?
Yeah.
These are the things we are looking at. Men are part of the society, and it's important that whenever we have all these discussions about the role of women, that we also look at what the role of men are. As the world is today, the reality is that you now need a 2-income household to be able to thrive. And why do you want to have a wife who is underemployed? Right? That's another discussion we need to have someday, TFS, the underemployment of women. Someone with a PhD or something, but because, oh, I have to close at 12 noon or 1 p.m., is now doing a job that is beneath. So men provide that support. We still have the numbers. Her Excellency shared numbers to me. Thank you very much for that statistics. It drove my mind like, oh my God, we had over 3,000 candidates, but only 64 got in, right? What does that mean? I wish I knew the total number of positions. I'm sure that for the men, I think she said it was about, I can't remember the percentage right now. We probably have like times 10 more of such men. So if we don't recruit them onto what we are doing as strong advocates for what we are doing, it's going to be more difficult. We've talked about raising funds. And we've talked about the people that know the access to funds. Good, we have our own dynamic Mrs. Sunny here, who is also going to lead us in the way. But she will go to those same men to bring out the money. So men have to be understand. Men are allies. I think that's the word. That's the word we should do. We should bring them on as allies. And the way to bring them on as allies is to educate them so they also understand what it is. I say it categorically. Without my husband's support, and this is the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, I would have long given up on my career because there were some days that were so difficult. As I'm speaking to you now, I'm in Abuja and he's with his 2.5-year-old daughter at home, answering mommy and daddy, despite having a very busy schedule himself. As he's having his webinar meetings, like because everybody's working from home, he has set up a seat beside him in his study where she stays there and she's doing executive business with him as he's leading his company. So men are allies and we want to appreciate them. And we really want to thank the men who make it possible indeed. Thank the men who make it possible. And for those who have not yet seen the light, we urge you to come to the light and recognize that women are gold. We are way more than in the kitchen. We are way more than in the house. We are very productive and we are natural nurturers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Omagiafo. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Should I just say Owen? Thank you, though. It's really insightful and it really does take a village. And it's about people having that like-minded goal to believe in you and see you rise and make it possible through the different support systems. On the topic of support systems, this question is for Deputy Governor, Mrs. Noimot Salako Oyedele. Being a woman with such great power, how have you managed to bypass the daunted red tape that the public sector holds in order to get things done and be effective in your leadership?
When you're in office as in an executive position, you're going to work with the civil servants. You cannot do it alone. It's teamwork. And it's the same, just like Mrs. Fadayomi said earlier, it's two sides of the same coin. We cannot do it without them, and they need us to also do the work. So the first thing you have to do is come in and start to build relationships and communicate. We have been elected and we would have promises that we have made to the electorate. We have a manifesto which we have to deliver on. And we in Ogun State, we have an excellent civil service here. And they've immediately bought into His Excellency's agenda. It is an agenda of social values, building our future together. And they've bought into it and we work with them to make sure we're able to deliver on what it is that we have promised the people. We also have to make sure that the welfare of the staff is a priority for us, because if your staff are not happy, they will not be able to deliver in any sector that you're in. So these are the kind of things that we do here to make sure that we get the job done. At the end of the day, the ball stops at the door of the governor, but he cannot use a non-cooperative civil service as an excuse for not delivering. So you have to make sure that you are on the same page with them and that they can work for you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, all too soon, we are at the end of another engaging and thought-provoking session for Women Who Lead, the second edition. I have some really great takeaways, and as someone this has been a priceless session, and I hope for our audience that they have enjoyed this session as much as I have and learned as much as I have. I'd like to say a special thank you once again to each of our amazing panelists, Her Excellency Engineer Mrs. Noimot Salako Oyedele, Deputy Governor of Ogun State, Chief Dr. Mrs. Onyapo Akande, CON OON, the Group Chairman of Emerging Africa Capital Group. Chief Barrister Mrs. Eniola Fadiomi, MFR, Chairman, APR PLC and Chair Board of Governors, Institute of Directors. Mrs. Owen Omojiafo, President and Group CEO of Transcorp Nigeria. I got that right in the last one. And Haja Hadiza Ali Dagabana, General Manager, Legal and Regulatory Commission, National Identity Management and Commission. And our amazing event host, Mrs. Toyin F. Sani, Group CEO of Emerging Africa Capital Group, and our amazing sponsor making this event possible. Thank you to all our participants that were able to join and make this webinar an absolute success. I wish everyone a very safe period and a very, very good evening. Thank you for joining us and making this possible. It's been absolutely remarkable, each and every one of you.
Thank you for having us on, and you have a nice evening too. It's been a pleasure and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone. Thank you. Nice program. Well done.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you, Ma.
Good to see you again, Ma.
Me too. I'm happy to see you again.
Thank you.